Well, I'm truly just excited to be here. Thank you so much for taking your time to talk with me.
Of course.
And I just was wondering, how did you get inspired to become an actor?
It was a long and unusual route, I would imagine. It wasn't something I ran towards. I actually ran away from it. I just wanted to kind of be an academic. I wanted to, like my father, and I wanted to deal with social issues through social psychology and get a PhD and start affecting social policy, political policy, public policy actually, and use statistics I was finding about the issues around race, gender, nationality, and bring them to public policy realms. That's what I was going to do. And then it just chased me down, quite honestly. The love of this craft and the fact that it was a passion that I just couldn't ignore, and it was where I felt the most fulfilled and the most purposed was when I was telling stories through the realm of either writing them or performing them. So I finally I let it catch up with me, and then I made a very clear decision to pursue it with my whole heart.
And with your characters, you exude like this confidence, this strength, this power. Like, where did you find that or get that?
Well, I mean, I think largely the craft of storytelling, you do have to transform for the character as much as you can and as much as you're able to. That's the whole point. And whatever you must do to give your character, their full humanity and their full expression and a full plethora of expression. That's the task of the dramatic artist. But where did I get it? I guess I was raised in a home. I was fortunate to be raised in a home where I was really allowed to have a voice and to have my own thoughts, and I was expected to, really. I was, I guess, thankfully, I had a father and a mother who really encouraged discourse in the home over various issues.
So they were strict? Like strict? Or?
No. They encouraged discourse, which means we were allowed to converse very freely. And talk and share our minds and our thoughts and whatever they were. It didn't matter if we didn't agree with each other. If we had an argument or an idea or a thought or a belief or a concept or or whatever, we could share it with each other and we could feel free to do that. So that's not strict.
Right.
That's actually, and I guess because they're both academics, they're both in higher education, they really wanted us to develop our own minds and our own thoughts and our own opinions about the world we were in. And to stand clear and firm as long as we could back it up with information and with understanding and with compassion. So I think that is something that helped me step out into the world and be ready to share my voice, because I was in a home that expected me to share my voice.
Yeah, because some homes are not like that.
Right.
Their parents tell them, you got to do this, you got to do that, and some feel like they're trapped in a box.
Right, yeah, and I saw that around my peers many a times, and I realized I was in a very different home from that. My parents wanted me to find my passion on my own. I was expected to go to school, get a couple degrees, but I was not expected to do exactly what they told me to do, because they wanted me to discover that. And I think that was part of the fact that they were in higher education. So they liked seeing people discover their passion while they were in pursuit of knowledge.
And in schools all around the world, I would say bullying and mental health issues is so big. What would you say to some young kid who he has a dream, but he's just getting picked on? They making fun of him. I mean, look, I'm a skateboarder. I'm from Alaska. People made fun of me, but I didn't stop. What would you tell that kid who had this dream, but people just keep making fun of him, that it's not going to work out? Or
well, I mean, I think one of the key things, I mean, that is a very it's a massive issue that we deal with across the world, and it's so unfortunate, and it's so shocking that it happens on such a massive scale, and what that's doing to the potential that lies inside young boys and girls who have so much to give, and they're being thwarted, and they're being beaten down inside and discouraged in ways that often can be quite scarring, and that's so frightening that's happening. And I think the thing that I would encourage a young person to know is that these people around you are frightened. They don't know your future. They don't know what you're capable of. They don't know your potential. They don't know the greatness that you're built for, and the things that the world needs from you, and that only you can give. And so it's very important to find a community or people or just whoever. Always find those around you who will love you and encourage you, and and make sure that that is where you're finding your strength, and that's the voice you're listening to.
Right.
Decipher which voices to listen to, and which voices to know that's not the truth. That's not truth coming at me. That I'm not going to listen to.
Yeah, because you hit that because social media, and we're constantly comparing ourselves to others. A lot of young people are comparing, and I like what you're saying. You can't compare yourself to nobody. You gotta.
Right. Yeah, and I think that that's the scariest thing. I think, the idea of becoming, the idea of being very conventional. And the idea in this world right now sometimes is like you have to fit into a very specific mold and look a certain way and have a certain number of this and that and likes and whatever is going on social media. I don't even totally understand social media. But all that stuff is just, it's so, to me, I found it can be very crippling to your own creative individuality. What you have to bring, what your little laboratory up inside your soul and your mind have to give the world can be really thwarted if all you're doing is trying to be conventional, is trying to fit into this little box. And it's, what are you missing out on? And what are you missing your own calling? Are you missing your own abilities, your own excellence, by following one very simple cookie cutter way of being and way of like spending your time? And I think that's something that's scary, and it's something we all go through when we're teenagers. You're trying to fit in, but I think it's a very particular thing right now with the youth of today, because I didn't have social media when I was a teenager, so I'm like, this is a whole other thing.
It's a whole other thing.
And the kids of this generation have to be really strong to find a way to retain their individuality and retain their sense of self in a world that's telling them that there's this one little way to be, and you define yourself in accordance with these few standards created by God knows who, and then you lose your sense of your own, purpose and sometimes even worth. People start to feel they don't compare to these whatever standards that are being put out there, and that starts to actually affect their sense of self, and that's tragic.
As I'm talking to you and just feeling just that energy, you got that positive energy, I want to ask, how do you stay present? I mean, do you take time out of your day to sometimes just be still? Do you do any of that type of?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely try to start my day in some way spiritually. Okay. I try to, definitely do things that connect my mind, spirit, and body. And I also really believe in community. I believe in having people around me that I reach out to, that I care for, that care for me. When I need that boost or that word, that encouraging word, I know who to go talk to and who to sit with and listen to and share my issues with. I believe that you should not isolate. I do believe in solitude, because I believe that it's very important to spend time enjoying your own company.
Yes,
but I also believe in not isolating, and those things definitely help me to stay present and to also to be a person who tries to give out as much as I get to receive.
All right. Well, I got one last question for you. I know you got to go. You've been working all day. You've been running all day. And
no spoilers.
No spoilers. No spoilers. But what is the best advice you've ever been given that has helped you in life?
Oh, gosh. That's a hard one. There's so many forms of advice I've received. I'm kind of a person who kind of always searches for wisdom from others. I search for it. In whatever way I can, if it's from a sermon to a book to just someone I find wise and experienced, to a mentor, I'm always searching for deep understanding of things and to deepen my understanding, because every day, we evolve and we need new information to help us move forward and help us become more self-aware so that we can actually improve and grow. But I'd say as an artist, one of the things that has helped me at times, and as a person as a whole, quite honestly, is understanding that there's the power in yourself, in the word no.
Speak on that. Just a little bit, tad that. Just a little tad bit for us. The word no.
The word no can often mean that you're clear on where you're meant to go. And so you are not going to go every which way other people want you to go. And it also it requires confidence. It requires an understanding of yourself, and a willingness to perhaps go against the grain, a willingness to not always go with the crowd, and so that word, it does a lot. It can define your path. I know it has for me in many ways. At times where I said no to this, and then that was open to me. If I'd said yes to this, that would never have happened. And that those are things that my life would be completely different. So that, to me, is also connected to listening to your heart and gaining that sort of, I guess it's a muscle or a sensitivity to listen to your heart and not to all the other voices that are constantly going to come at you.
But how about those no's where you're trying to get an opportunity and they keep telling you no? Because some people just stop, they give up.
Well, that's the thing. Whereas, like, what voice are you listening to? Once again, because if you are in a place where if you are looking for, often this is what we do. We look for self-definition through gratification of other people's acceptance, and that's often not where it's going to come from. So the voices that are coming at you saying yes or no, are not always the ones that are defining who you are. So that it's that place of creating your own space for self-definition, and that's, I think, a hard place to find in this world. There's a lot of noise. How do you find that place of solitude and self-connection, where you're able to understand the voices that are not meant to be listened to and the ones that are? And I think once that is sort of deciphered, I think that's one of the trickiest things, of course, for our youth to figure out as you grow right through adulthood, but really when you're in those formative years, I mean, that is a really hard one to decipher. But giving up based on, I've heard that people, you give up based on what one person said to you. That to me, it's like, no, that person does not define you.
There we go.
That was one person with one opinion, one thought on one day. That cannot define the rest of your life. And so yeah, I've come across that a lot. Yeah. Well,
thank you. I know you, but I really appreciate it.
Thank you, and
You're
thanks
amazing.
for the work you're doing. It's very important work. So thank you for what you do.
No problem.